So, rebuilding the future.
How we transform our CMS with Strapi. So we will talk about our journey on this transformation of our CMS, how we were before, and how Strapi help us on building the next generation of our CMS at Adidas. This is the agenda of the presentation, and I would like also to ask a question to the audience. It's a rhetorical question, no need to answer anything. Has anyone here felt how sports have changed their life? Because sports is central to every culture and society, and is core to an individual's health and happiness. This is how we believe that through sports we have the power to change lives. Everything we do at Adidas is rooted in sports. The mission, be the best sports brand in the world, so we are a sports brand before everything. And here also we want to give you a quick view on how we are operating everything we do at Adidas at a global scale. So every solution that we design, which is a software solution at the end of the day, so we build software at Adidas as well. We have presence in all the markets, all the countries around the world, which means that the complexity of a project like this needs to take into account that every region, every market has differences between themselves, how they operate the content, how they translate the content, how we serve the content everywhere. So this was a complex one, and we'd like to talk more about it.
So before we deep dive into the use case, how we use Strapi, we wanted to kind of circle back to when we started and show you a little bit about our story, where do we come from, and why do we decided in the first place to engage in such a journey with Strapi and change our landscape. So back in 2022, we had, as many big corporations, a very fragmented landscape where in the end we had multiple channels because we have our own e-com website, adidas.com, that is globally available in all of these markets that Guillermo showed before, as well as our Adidas app. But we also have other smaller applications, like our Confirmed application that is used for hype sales, if you know, like some hype products, hype collaborations with other brands. We also have the former Runtastic that is today called Adidas Running, that is more like a running sports application that you can track your progress when you run. We have other touchpoints as well, more on the B2B side of the company, on the retail side. So each of these channels were in the end using their own set of tooling to manage the content, and the complexity was extremely high. Just to show you some numbers of our biggest use case, that was our e-com website. We had a very old-fashioned web content manager from 10, 15 years ago, and we were managing quite high volumes of publications of content, of creation of content, of requests on the delivery side, so how many times our APIs were called. And this was not scalable anymore. So in the end, our landscape was not future-proof because we were attached to some of these vendors. The costs were high. The cognitive load for our users was extremely consuming them, because in the end they had to onboard to not only one CMS but many of them, and they had to repeat their work over and over. If they wanted to launch the same content across different touch points, they needed to replicate the efforts over and over. So in that sense, we decided to make a change. We decided, okay, how can we make this better? And that is how Future of Content was born.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Fernando. So at Adidas, we do complex programs and projects that normally can be for a year or two. That depends on the time that it takes for rolling that out. Future of Content was the name that strategically was selected. Now this is more present of content because we finished last year. And here our main goal was basically just to continue with what Fernando was explaining. So we came from a really fragmented vision where many channels have their own CMSs. So really the vision is that we want to have just one entry point for our all content creators, marketeers, to be able to create content in a single place and deliver that content to all of our touchpoints, which it might be simpler, but when you have more than 10 different touchpoints with 50 locales, with more than 200, 300 people in the organization that needs to coordinate and to align on decisions is quite complex. So that, so the mission as well, maybe we will hear today about personalization. This is not only content. We also need to take into account that today what our users are demanding is to have the right content at the right place at the right time, which can be complicated as well. You need to connect all the user journeys across all your touchpoints with some kind of, let's say, intelligent engine. Right.
So that is how, with the launch of this program internally, we decided to go on a round of RFIs and RFPs with different vendors. The initial idea was, OK, how can we re-platform our systems and centralize all of the content management capabilities in the same platform, right? Back in the day, we interviewed a lot of vendors. Strapi was one of them. And given that our use case is so massive and complex because we have hundreds and hundreds of different users working both in global campaigns as well as on local activations across so many different countries, we have to maintain more than 50 local versions of the content. We have to power different channels with different technologies. None of the solutions, not even Strapi, were a plug-and-play, out-of-the-box match for our use case, right? So we needed something that was solving part of the problem that we had, but that gives us as well the flexibility to build on top the rest of the remaining customizations and tailor the solution for the needs of our marketeers and our activation teams. So basically, after the first round, we kind of narrowed down the list of vendors into two, Strapi and another one that we cannot disclose, but in the end, it was more like an enterprise closed solution, a SaaS-based solution. And we ran a set of POCs. We tested some of our few use cases, and we determined that also given the nature of our organization, because Adidas has a very extreme engineering-driven approach. We have a lot of engineers, a lot of talent in-house that can build, and we like the independence of building something on our own to accommodate the needs of our users. We ended up choosing Strapi as the way to go. Back in the day, Strapi, when we started, was on the early version 3. So it was much less mature than it is today, but it was already good enough to set the baseline of what we envision as the new architecture of our system, right? So now the fun part is more, this is how we set up our new CMS. As you can see, it's a lot of boxes and arrows here, but in the end, what we did is we set Strapi into the core of our system, so everything that is related to content modeling, so all the models of our content for all of our channels, we model them into Strapi. We are using all of the content management basic capabilities, so create, update, duplicate, delete, all of the main features of the system. But then we created as well a connected ecosystem with other tools that we have in-house. And also we built some additional features around Strapi or within Strapi as well to support the needs of our users. So as you can see on the top, we have what we call Adidas Admin. Adidas Admin, just to give you a glimpse of it, is an internal tool that we use in Adidas. It's kind of a micro front-end launcher where you can have multiple applications embedded into it just as micro front-ends, and our operational teams use to perform their daily tasks. So they don't only manage content, but they also need to manage other things like membership offers, events, everything that they need to manage is centralized in this system. So we also build there an integration for the content management system. It is connected with Strapi, of course, as well as with a set of other services that you can see there. So we have built our own way of scheduling content because we need to manage hundreds and hundreds of schedules of future campaigns that are going to be launched on a daily basis. We have some days hundreds of publications scheduled to be launched at midnight, at different time zones, at different markets. We are also managing assets connecting to our digital asset system. We are managing taxonomies so that we can tag the content. We are connected to many different applications, like Adioma is a translation system that we use to translate the content to the different locales in-house. After that, what we did is we followed an event-driven approach for our system. We wanted everything to be broadcasted for others to use and also for us to use. So we created a set of middlewares in Strapi that make that everything that is created, updated, every CRUD operation is launched as a Kafka event afterwards. So these events are captured by our other part here, the touchpoint content manager, and this layer is basically performing a set of adjustments and transformations to adapt the content to the needs of each of the channels. So we have the raw version of the content that is stored in Strapi, and then we capture the content and perform a set of smaller transformations for the touchpoints. And then we also build, on top of OpenSearch, our own API to search across all content types. And why we did this is because back in the day, Strapi version 3 didn't offer a way of searching across content types. You could search within one of them. And we also needed advanced text-powered search based on text searches that they could search in any field, any piece of text to facilitate our users to find the content that they need, given the volumes that we have. And then we connected that with a separate delivery platform. So we are not using Strapi API directly to deliver the content to our channels. We built that as a separate system because we need this delivery platform in high availability, replicated across 3 different regions on the US, on Asia, and in Europe to have high availability. We deploy everything in the cloud in AWS. So after we publish the content, we actually trigger in this publication feed more Kafka events that are captured by this data stream here and aggregated into another OpenSearch database. And we expose this through Akamai, which is our content distribution network, to the outside world. And with this architecture, we are standing a massive load. We support Black Friday. We support all of these massive event hype sales, and it's really scalable, right? And this is how it looks on the inside. And now we are going to also show how it is connected at a system level with other systems in our enterprise.
Yeah. So before we saw the application architecture, so here is more the systems architecture. So here you can see the list of actors that are at some point in time they have the need to interact with the CMS or any piece of content. So we have everything segregated into different parts of the organization. So we have people who is responsible, especially in the agencies, to manage the assets, to curate the videos, to help with our athletes. Then we have, for example, teams that are managing specific segmentations and personalization rules. Then, of course, we have people who are working in global teams and in local teams, making specific adaptations to the local content that needs to be launched as a campaign in a country. Then we have a dedicated team that is activating that content into the different channels. And then, of course, we have a translation agency with matching translations, AI, and this stuff, but also with people and humans who are translating the content. So all of this in a program like this is a challenge itself. So it's many people in the organization that everyone has something to say. They have their own priorities. So it's not only, technically speaking, a complexity in this program, because it was as well, but also how to align people, how to identify who are your stakeholders, the priorities, how to form a team, how to connect the dots. Sometimes it's not obvious. Not sure if we mentioned, but the previous CMS we have, it was a one content management system. It was a traditional one with an ugly UI. And then it was around for more than 10 years, meaning that probably none of us were even in the organization at that time. So when we were doing this project, we discovered things that no one knew, actually. The code base was not so evident. It was kind of black box, so it was really hard. And then here, when you migrate all the adidas.com website, how do you do it? How do you plan the rollout? How do you do the cutover plan? Do we migrate by country? Do we do it, the migration manually, automatically? Do we do it by page type? Well, all of these things need to take into account, because in the end, we are selling every day, so we cannot disrupt the business. And also there is moments where people that they have to do their job, if they have more work, they will never accept that we need to migrate to a different tool. So we need to be smart here and to do a proper project plan with risk assessment, impact analysis, well, all this stuff that in a complex organization like that, it can take between 1 and 2 years to completely roll out everything. And here also, just for you to know, so we have a specific products that they are in charge of one specific thing. So we have a camping portal, then we have Nova, which is basically a digital asset management system. We have a translation tool. XTM is the name of the tool. Then we have a pool party. I don't know if this is there, but in the end is semantic management for tagging, taxonomy. So everything is really with a specific product. So that's why we need something quite flexible enough to be able to integrate as we need, rather than plug and play, because sometimes that doesn't work. We need to make adaptations. So here, so we saw before the numbers that we have in our previous one. So those are the numbers and some data from the volumes last year. So when we, I think in mid 2024, we roll out everything. So we have 94 collection types with 234 components, 4 million localizations, 10 million on publications. We have these 31 million requests per day. And, well, it's not mentioned here, but we have more than 1 terabyte of assets stored in Cloudinary and the content delivery network. So it's big numbers, so that's why we decided to split content management and content delivery. We need to have a proper cache layer to be able to handle that load. And then, of course, there are some bullet points here with central features that we have, which is basically everything around automation. So all these pieces on the system architecture, they are connected somehow to our CMS through automations that we built. Yeah, I think that is what it ends up making an easy user journey to our content managers, because they don't need to create the same thing in different places. We also are not tied to any technology. So in that architecture you saw, we have node.js, of course, we have React, but we have Java, for example. Yeah.
And just to recap a bit on everything and show you how far we are in this transformation. By doing this, we've managed to raise the customer satisfaction of our main users from 54 points to 82 points, because now they can work in one system. They don't have to duplicate efforts to activate the same content across different channels. Of course, as you've seen in the previous slide, we've also built a lot of automations that help them in their day-to-day basis. By connecting the different systems together, we've managed to, even in global campaigns, actually, we are already automating the content creation piece, because we have a campaign planning tool, we have a content planning tool, we have a digital asset manager, we have different systems providing different data points, and by connecting this information all together, we know what campaign they are planning, what content they are planning for that campaign, what are the assets related to that campaign, and then we manage to put everything together into Strapi, and since everything is API first, we can basically create the content automatically for them, and then they can only go and have more a passive role of reviewing and approving instead of having to do the manual effort of curating something that is anyway provided by an agency, because in our principal campaigns, we always have agencies producing the content because it requires doing photo shoots with specific models, with specific products, writing the right copy for that specific type of asset, given the tone or the audience of that campaign. So we've managed to reduce content creation time in 54%. It's a massive achievement because now we are able to activate more campaigns to target better different audiences. We can use that time that we are saving to create more tailored content for specific audiences and to start working into personalization, into understanding better our consumer, into analyzing the data that we are storing in the lakehouse. We are building, as you saw in the system architecture, we connect everything with the lakehouse. We build Power BI dashboards to track the performance of the content, how many interactions this content is having into our different channels connected to the different campaigns and linked to this specific piece of content in the CMS. We managed to have a 360 view of what's happening, how everything is performing, how it is operating, and we can do better decisions with all of this information, right? And just to recap on what we've experienced so far with Strapi is that it helped us a lot build this connected ecosystem within our platform, right? We can connect easily with any system, no matter the technology, as long as it's API, you can connect it, it will work. And we've also seen a lot of benefits as well on the hiring of engineers. Our older systems were based in more older technologies, .NET, and specific vendor-specific frameworks to build now, and we can just find Node.js engineers. Actually, we have a couple of them here, Alberto and Jorge, that will be excited to have some chats with you. And because Adidas has this extreme engineering-driven culture, we've seen that it's the right choice. After a few years, it's been a hard transformation because of the change management as well in the massive organization, but the costs have also drastically reduced. Infrastructure and hosting is much simpler. We have a very good relationship with the Strapi team. We can work together. We get the support we need. We can exchange ideas. We can connect with other companies using Strapi, learn from them, and that's also part of this culture that we've seen. We've also, within Adidas, launched this inner sourcing initiative where we are organized in different departments. So we are a product-led organization where we are basically in charge of product data, content, and personalization. We have other teams in charge of membership and consumer engagement things. We have other teams in charge of other areas of the organization, but all of them at some point, they need content, right? So they sometimes need to model new content types. They sometimes need to access some of the features of the CMS. So we've opened our system within Adidas, and they can code themselves. They can submit pull requests, and we just take more like a role of support and counseling them, which is something that we didn't used to do in Adidas. Every team was responsible of their own applications, but now with this new ecosystem, we managed to offer this as well to them. And it's been a great change for us, and I think we really enjoyed the journey so far with Strapi and within this project. Mm-hmm. And with that, I think that's all we wanted to share. We have 5 minutes left in case somebody wants to launch any questions. Otherwise, we can gather afterwards and have some talks.
All right. Thanks a lot. Is there any question from the audience? We can have like a couple minutes to.
Where did you start when implementing Strapi?
Sorry?
Where did you start when implementing Strapi?
When?
Where?
Where?
Where did you start when implementing Strapi into Adidas company?
What do you mean where?
Yeah, but with the content types or with defining the processes.
So as we said, we already had several CMSs in-house. And the first thing we did was analyze the different content types that we had defined for the different use cases and see how we could model all of them in Strapi. Because in the end, we had similar pieces of content modeled across different CMSs supporting similar use cases, but not exactly the same. So we needed to understand, OK, if I have a banner, but that banner is slightly different in the app than is in the web and that is in Confirm, can we model something that covers all the use cases, centralize that into one single content type that can support everything? And we started with the modeling, basically, because, as you've seen, we have almost 100 different models of collection types. So that was a tough work, how to harmonize everything, how to consolidate. Yeah, that was pretty much the beginning of this.
But then just to complement the answer. So at some point in time, after you do this, which is probably the obvious thing to do, which is, well, I have in this system these content types, then how I can, create it here and to do certain kind of migration, just to understand. So at some point, you need to do a capability map on what are the capabilities that I had before, what Strapi as a capability they have as a capability, what is the gap, because in the end there are different solutions. It doesn't mean that if Strapi doesn't have, we need to build it. Maybe we need to review it. So then you need to list it, and then you need to check, well, we have it, we don't, yes. And after that, then you start discovering what you basically need to build or to connect or to integrate, because it's not only a lift and shift, then we are also changing certain processes in the organization. So it was also a good moment to start with this mapping. And after that, I think we were, OK, which database we use? At that moment, I think it was MySQL, MariaDB, then Postgres, then Mongo. Then we understood that Mongo was not the right choice. Then we started with MySQL. Then we saw performance issues. Then we moved to Postgres. Then how we deploy this into Kubernetes, how we move this to the cloud, how we do the backups, how we do the migrations. Then, OK, let's focus now on the UI, how we do we do it with that UI. Then we build micro frontends. What are the APIs? How about security? Well, it was a long journey. But I think we started with content types. Yeah, most of it.
Any other questions?
Thank you. How many persons and how long did it take to release into production your solution?
So in terms of people, I mean, if we only count tech people, it's around 20, 25. If we count software engineers, QAs, DevOps, architecture. But we also have like a lot of, like we created a program, and that involved a lot of people also from the business side to precisely the requirement gathering as well as the change management within the org, because that was the hardest part. Not building was the easy part. The hard part was to change how the org was operating and how the markets were interacting with each other. But yeah, the whole future of content team as a program was what?
Roughly speaking, was about 20, 25 people. Development more or less was 1 year. Because after the development, then we start rolling out, and then of course we build features. But the main, the core was a year. But then we have another teams with maybe 10, 15 people at the beginning, maybe 5 at the end, which was basically making all the changes in the front end, because they were also doing a re-architecture moving through a monolithic front end to a micro front ends. I mean, the Adidas.com, the visual part, so they take into account, or the chance that we rebuild the CMS, so they start creating new component libraries, this kind of stuff for the visual part. So I think we took 15, 2 people, 2 teams, then 5 at the end. So yeah.
Yeah. So it was a longer program because of as well of the change management and the rollouts and how do we roll this out globally and per channel and everything. But the development phase was maybe roughly a year, counting all the changes in the e-com website, on the applications, as well as building the new systems on the CMS. And yeah, it was a very interesting journey, but that was fun as well.
Maybe one last question.
Thank you. The project seems to have been like a long-term project, several years, from the conception to the full rollout and so on. On which Strapi version are you running, V4 or V5? And then, depending on that, how did you manage the migration, or how do you plan in the future to do the migration to the V5?
So we are currently running V4. I don't know if you experienced the same, but migration from V3 to V4 was a bit traumatic. I know it's better now, but we were focused on releasing everything, rolling out everything last year. And this year we are starting a new journey of also onboarding more channels into the new ecosystem, our CRM channels, our social media channels, all of them into this. So the migration to V5 is kind of not planned yet. We want to do it, but priorities from the business are not there yet. So, I mean, our engineers would love to, especially for the TypeScript part. We would love to as well, but business sometimes has different priorities. But yeah, definitely we will have to do it, and we want to do it, but it's not there yet.
Thank you very much. Please deserve another round of applause.